Today I will be presenting the seminar on the topic chemical reactions and equations. So this chapter mainly consists of these important chemical equations, balancing chemical equations, and types of chemical reactions. Now let us brush up through the topic which we have learned in class 9th, which is types of changes. They are physical change and chemical change. Talking about physical change, a substance undergoes change in its physical properties such as shape, size, color, etc. In physical change, no new substance is formed. Example, melting of ice. In chemical change, a substance undergoes change in its chemical properties. Here, one or more substance is formed, example, cooking of food. So basically, physical changes are reversible changes, chemical changes are irreversible. Now, look at activity 1, which is the burning of magnesium ribbon. So first we have to take a magnesium ribbon and rub it with sandpaper. We should hold it with a pair of tongs and burn it using a burner or a spirit lamp and collect the ash formed in a watch glass. So, so now this is how a magnesium ribbon burns. It just produces this beautiful white dazzling light, and also we can observe this magnesium oxide ash like thing formed. So what do we observe? We observe magnesium ribbon burns with a white flame and changes into a white powder, that is magnesium oxide. So here combustion is going on wherein magnesium reacts with oxygen to form magnesium oxide. Now moving on to activity 2. First we need to take a few zinc granules in a conical flask as shown in the figure, and then we have to add dilute hydrochloric acid or sulfuric acid, but in this reaction they have taken dilute sulfuric acid. So what do we observe? So first of all, let us take a look at this equation, so wherein we can clearly see that zinc is displacing hydrogen. As it's more reactive than hydrogen, it is displacing hydrogen. So now what can we observe? So first we can observe that there are gas bubbles forming on the zinc granules. Then we can see that they eventually disappear as they are getting displaced, and the evolved gas is hydrogen. It is evolved, and then heat is also produced, and the reaction produces zinc sulfate. So by looking at all of these, we can conclude there is change in state, change in color, evolution of gas, change in temperature, and also new substances are formed. So for a chemical reaction to take place, all these factors, all these characteristics should be visible. So now, chemical equations. So for example, I have taken magnesium plus oxygen gives you magnesium oxide. So this part, this LHS is called as the reactants. So these reactants together form the product or the RHS. So now balancing of a chemical equation. So I'll take the same example, that is magnesium plus oxygen gives magnesium oxide. So if we take a look at LHS, in LHS there is the atoms of magnesium is 1 and oxygen is 2, and in RHS magnesium is 1 and oxygen is 1. So wherein oxygen is imbalanced, so what we can do is we can multiply the oxygen. We can basically equate oxygen on both sides. So I'll just multiply it with 2. So basically this shouldn't be written in the subscript, but it should be written as a coefficient. So when it is written as a coefficient, it will multiply to mg and also O. So what will happen? Magnesium will also be multiplied into 2. As a result, the number of atoms in magnesium will be also 2. But in LHS, it is becoming unbalanced. So what I'll do is again multiply this with 2. So it will be 2 because we have to always add it in the coefficient place. Now this will be the final equation, the final balanced equation. So such unbalanced equations are also called as skeletal equations. Moving on, This is a example of zinc plus hydrogen sulfate gives you zinc sulfate plus hydrogen. So if we take a look at LHS and RHS. Zinc in LHS it is 1. It is also 1 in RHS. Hydrogen is 2 in RHS. Also it is 2. In sulfur in LHS it is 1. In RHS also it is 1. Oxygen in LHS it's 4. In RHS also it is 4. So LHS equals to RHS. So such equations where there is no variation in number of atoms on both these sides, such equations are called as balanced equations. Now, writing of symbols. So, the gaseous, liquid, aqueous, and solid states of reactions and products are represented by symbols respectively. For gaseous, we use the symbol G. For liquid, we use the symbol L. And for solid, we use the symbol S. For example, so Mg plus O2 will give you MgO. So, magnesium is in solid state. So, we have denoted it with letter S, and oxygen is in gaseous state, so we have denoted with the letter G, and magnesium oxide is also in the solid state, so it is denoted with letter S. So sometimes the reaction conditions such as temperature, pressure, etc. are indicated above and below or just above the arrow in the equation, like photosynthesis equation, which is a very common one. So you can see that C6O2 plus 6H2O with the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll will give you C6H12O6 and 6O2. So now let's talk about combination reaction, a reaction in which a single product is formed from two or more reactants. It's known as a combination reaction. Now let us take a look at activity 3, where we have to be taking a small amount of calcium oxide in a beaker, and then we should slowly add water to it, so it will form calcium hydroxide. So calcium oxide, which is also known as quicklime, reacts with water to form calcium hydroxide, also known as slaked lime. Along with this, the heat energy is also formed over here. And now another example is burning of carbon, and another one is formation of water. So, exothermic reactions. The reactions in which heat is released along with the formation of products is called as exothermic reactions, which is the burning of coal. And also, we observed it in the calcium oxide getting converted into calcium hydroxide reaction, also. And also, we can observe this exothermic reaction in the cellular respiration, wherein glucose and oxygen will give you carbon dioxide, water with releasing of energy. And then activity 3. So first we have to be taking 2 grams of ferrous sulfate crystals in a dry boiling cube. We have to first note the color of ferrous sulfate crystals. So the ferrous sulfate crystals are basically green in color. So then we have to heat the boiling cube over the flame of a burner or a spirit lamp as shown, like this. So observe the color of the crystals after heating. So first, if we just observe this equation, what is happening is this ferrous sulfate is getting displaced as ferric oxide, sulfur dioxide, and sulfur trioxide. So first, the ferrous sulfate will be in green color, but as it loses its water molecules, it will turn into what whitish color, and then on more heating, it will turn into ferric oxide like this. So first, it'll change into ferric oxide, which is in basically reddish brown color, and the smell of this will be possibly sulfur dioxide or sulfur trioxide, and after cooling, the residue may be brown or black in color. So now moving on to decomposition reaction. A single reactant breaks down to give simpler products. For example, calcium carbonate gives calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. So calcium carbonate is also known as the limestone, and calcium oxide is known as quicklime. And in this, heat is getting absorbed into the reaction. So when a decomposition reaction is carried out by heating, it is called as thermal decomposition. Now moving on to activity 4, it is the heating of lead nitrate. So first we have to be taking about 2 grams of lead nitrate powder in a boiling tube. Hold the boiling tube with a pair of tongs and heat it over the flame. And first of all, let me just break this thing. So first what happens is lead nitrate will be will be what split up to lead oxide, nitrogen dioxide, and oxygen with the presence of heat. So, lead oxide is in yellow color, nitrogen dioxide is in brown color, and oxygen is colorless. So, what are we observing? What are we observing? We are observing this brown color fumes. So, we will observe the emission of brown fumes, which is of nitrogen dioxide. Now, activity 5. So basically, we should be taking a plastic mug and drilling in 2 holes and inserting 2 electrodes, and fill it with water, and connect it to a 6-volt battery, and one connected to anode and one connected to cathode. And what we have to do is we could add hydrochloric acid to increase the conductivity of the water. So what happens, water, you know, gets decomposed into it is split up to hydrogen and oxygen when the electrolysis of water takes place. So the question is the volume of gas collected in both the test tubes same? No, because you can see that the hydrogen has 2 and oxygen has 1, so the ratio will be 2:1. And which gas is present in each tube? So we know that hydrogen contains H plus ions, which is positively charged, will always attract negatively charged, so it will be present in cathode, and the oxygen will be negatively charged, so it will attract positively charged, which is anode. Now moving on to activity 6, we have to take about 2 grams of silver chloride in a china dish. What is its color? So basically it will be white in color in the beginning. So place this china dish in the sunlight for some time. Observe the color of silver chloride after some time. So we have to place it in the sunlight for some time, and after some time it will turn into grayish color. This is the reaction uh, wherein silver chloride gives you silver and chlorine with the presence of sunlight, and the heat is getting absorbed into the reaction. So endothermic reaction, those 2 examples will be also given. So the reactions in which the energy is absorbed is known as the endothermic reactions. So these reactions require energy either in the form of heat, electricity, or light for breaking down into reactants. So displacement reaction. So a reaction in which a higher reactive substance displaces the lower reactive substance is called as displacement reaction. So for understanding that, let us take a look at activity 5. So basically we have to be taking 3 iron nails and rub it with sandpaper in case to remove any sort of rust on them. So what we'll do is we'll just take away one iron nail and just keep it away for comparing later. So what we'll do is we'll take a thread and just, you know, tie the 2 iron nails and immerse it in copper sulfate solution. So and leave them, this will be happening in test tube B, and test tube A will be just with the copper sulfate solution. So after these iron nails are immersed in the test tube B in the copper sulfate solution, you can just see these reactions. First one will be the change in color. So for that, so basically the copper sulfate with iron will give you iron sulfate plus copper. So copper sulfate will be first in blue color. So as we can clearly see that iron displaces copper, as it is more highly reactive than copper, it will form iron sulfate. So iron sulfate will be in green color. So we can observe this greenish color solution, and this brownish reddish deposit on the iron nail is because of the displacement. So this is the same thing that I had explained in the previous slide. this will be the color of copper sulfate, and this will be the color of iron sulfate. So now talking about the reactivity series. So this we often use this, that this is more reactive than that. So all of this is based on this reactivity series. So for that, for remembering this, we have a easy method, which is a fun sentence wherein, please stop calling me a careless zebra, instead try learning how copper saves gold. So this is an easy way to remember the reactive series, wherein P for potassium, S for sodium, Ca for calcium, M for magnesium, and so on. So these are all examples for the reactions. Now talking about activity 6, so we have to be taking 3 ml of sodium sulfate in one test tube, and in another test tube we'll be having to take 3 ml of barium chloride in another one. So mix the two solutions. What do you observe? So we can see this insoluble substance. First we can see this insoluble substance in the water. It is not getting dissolved, so that is known as the precipitate. And also looking at this equation, we can see that there is mutual exchange of ions. So such reactions are known as double displacement reactions. So the reactions in which there is an exchange of ions between the reactants are called as double displacement reactions. Now coming to the oxidation and reduction. So oxidation is defined as a process where a substance gains oxygen, loses hydrogen, and loses electrons. Reduction is defined as a process where a substance loses oxygen, gains hydrogen, and gains electrons. Redox reaction is the combination of oxidation and reduction. Talking about activity 7, we have to heat a china dish containing about 1 gram of copper powder. So if you just observe this reaction, what all can we observe is the copper powder has reacted with oxygen from the air. This reaction forms copper oxide. The black color indicates the formation of copper oxide. The brown copper powder changes to black color. This example is of oxidation. So wherein there is an addition of oxygen, there is like the oxygen is being formed here. So such equations fall under oxidation reactions. So what happens if hydrogen gas is passed over the heated copper oxide? So if hydrogen gas is passed over the heated copper oxide, the black coating turns brown. This is because the hydrogen gas reduces the copper oxide, meaning it loses oxygen. So the reaction will be copper oxide plus hydrogen will give you copper plus water. So this is a reduction reaction, and it's also an example of redox reaction, basically because one substance is being oxidized, wherein hydrogen is gaining oxygen, while other one is being reduced, copper is being reduced. Basically copper oxide loses oxygen. The recalling of activity 1, where a magnesium ribbon burns with a dazzling flame in oxygen and turns into a white substance called as magnesium oxide. So here is magnesium being oxidized or reduced in this reaction. So we already know that it heats with a white bright flame, and also it is converted into this magnesium oxide. So magnesium is getting oxygen because it is having a gain of oxygen. So yeah, it is being oxidized. Corrosion. So when a metal is attacked by a substance around it, such as moisture, acids, etc., it is said to corrode, and this process is called as corrosion. So black coating on silver, especially on silver coins and all, and also green coating on copper, like the silver coins. And also the Statue of Liberty initially was in copper, so due to corrosion it is appearing to be green in color. So this also causes damages to car bodies, bridges, iron railings, ships, and all the objects made of metals. Talking about rancidity, so when fats and oils are oxidized, they become rancid, and their smell and taste changes. It's basically the spoiling of food, as you can see. So, how to prevent rancidity? So, first we'll be using antioxidants like salts and some chemicals. Basically, you can observe this thing in pickling, and also keeping the food in airtight containers. I think this is the thing that we usually do in all our houses. And then by using nitrogen gas, nowadays, as the consumption of junk food has been increasing, we all know that chips packets are filled with nitrogen gas from preventing them from being spoiled. So yeah, thank you so much for giving me the time, and also thank you Shambhavi ma'am for giving me this opportunities. Thank you.